So yesterday in my video, a few people seemed to misunderstand exactly what I was talking about. So what I wanted to do here is just quickly go over what I was talking about and why I was saying that this gear system, this gear change, could potentially be very bad for the game. Now if you look here, I have a Gilligard with 3 reds on it. Obviously all I had to do was roll my main attribute from armor to weapon damage. If in the new system, all of my gear is going to have a mandatory of 2 blues, so the armor roll, and a 100% chance to get my first attribute also being blue, it means I could no longer get crit chance, crit damage, and weapon damage on my Gilligard. And the same thing goes for Golan gear. Obviously a lot of status effect builds want this because the first piece is status effect. Now, it comes with armor natively. So if I had to roll off armor and a second attribute also being blue, I could not get this piece. Meaning that anyone who had these pieces would basically have legacy gear, and you couldn't get these pieces anymore, and they would potentially have an advantage in certain builds or certain situations, and a lot of players don't like that. That's the same thing that players were complaining about when we had the legacy gear from basically clan hopping. You know, the clan vendors offered some of the best stuff at certain times, and if you went to a lower level clan, you could get some really god roll items. That was a huge problem, and they did away with it. If they ended up going with this system, they would either have to allow all of this gear to stay in the game, which would potentially make people mad, or they would have to remove all this stuff and destroy a lot of people's gear rolls, which would of course piss people off. So yeah, it's not a good situation. I mean, I know if all of the pieces that I have that I really like, that I have basically farmed for to get stuff like this, were removed or destroyed because they wanted to change it for rainbow rolls, I would be incredibly pissed off. And with the declining player base, how many players can you afford to lose at this point? Now, the one thing I was asked was, well, what would I do? What are some solutions to deal with this situation? Well, the answer to this is pretty freaking simple. We don't need to change the way that each piece of gear is rolling. We've got ways to farm for pretty much every piece of gear in this game. So if you wanted to get chests, or if you wanted to get knee pads, or you wanted to get holsters, there's ways to farm every specific piece of gear in this game. So why can't we use this to the advantage of the player? Instead of just being able to farm for a gear set or a brand or whatever, why not just be able to farm specifically for red rolls? Add a modifier that basically allows gear to roll with more reds than they would normally. Now this would offer the advantage of, 1, giving players the ability to farm those stat rolls that they actually want. So if you wanted blue, red, or yellow rolls, you would have a higher likelihood of getting that targeted loot in the loot pool. But it would also tone down the ability for basically players to just target specific loot like all red Sokolov or all red Fenris and get that incredibly easily, because you would have to farm through the entire loot pool. So, if you went to farm reds, you'd basically have to deal with all the Alps pieces, all the Golan gear pieces, all the Gilligard pieces. Everything would have the possibility of showing up as red, blue, or yellow. I think that would be a good solution. I think that would be an easy fix. And honestly, I don't really see too much complaints about that because it's balanced for everyone. But that's just my thought. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.